Let us start the class, this short prayer. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So let us chant verse number 20 and then 23, 24, 25 and 26. So 5 verses. So starting with verse number 20. Asti bhati priyam rupam nama chetyam shapanchakam adyatrayam brahma rupam jagat rupam tatodvayam. And verse number 23. Savikalpo nirvikalpaha samadhir dvividho hridi drishya shabdanuvedhena savikalpah punardvidha kamadya chittaga drishyaha tatsakshittvena chetanam dhyayet drisyanuvidhoyam samadhi savikalpakaha asanga satchidanandaha swaprabho dvaita varjitaha asmiti shabda vidhoyam samadhi savikalpakaha swanubhuti rasaveshat drishya shabdanupekshituhu nirvikalpa samadhi syat nivatasthita deepavat. So in the last class we were discussing the words consisting of the verse number 26. Swa anubhuti rasa aveshat drishya shabda anupekshituhu nirvikalpaha samadhi syat nivata sthita deepavat. So the English translation of that, as Swami Viditatmananda has said, is the person who drops cognized thoughts, drishya, and words, shabda, has nirvikalpa samadhi due to the complete absorption in the true I that is at once consciousness and ananda. The absorbed mind is like a lamp placed in a calm, windless place. So I think we went through the word swa, then anubhuti, then rasa, then avesha. And so we will spend some time in developing the meaning of the word avesha. So this is the process where there is a conversion of savikalpakaha into nirvikalpakaha. How does that happen? So we will go into that. So one additional thing that I would like to mention is the word anubhuti. The word anubhuti. So this is a word. Anubhuti means experience. A direct experience is called anubhuti. It's like until you experience, you cannot say that you know it. Like for example, eating a mango. So you may have heard that there is a fruit called mango. In the Western world, people grow up as children never really knowing what a mango is. You have apples, you have grapes, and you have pears and so on. But mango is something, but now they're getting to be, you can get that. Anyway, so supposing you say, have you ever had the experience of mango? So the person can say, well, not really. I've heard about it. It's a very popular fruit in India. India, of course, they are just crazy about mangoes. It was so funny. My father, he was a very disciplined man. One of his personality traits was he's extremely disciplined and contained within himself. So my mother used to get upset that sometimes, even if he's hungry, he would only have, I think, one roti and some rice. So my mother will say, why can't you have two rotis? And she says, no, this is what I want to do. Just one roti. And he was always very thin and so on, very disciplined. But when it came to mangoes, his discipline will disappear. And my mother will cut all the mangoes and so on and so forth. And my dad will can say, can I have another one? Another one? So my mom used to say, this is very funny. This guy is so disciplined in all aspects of his life, but he was crazy about mangoes. Anyway, so in India, mangoes are very popular. So if somebody asks you, have you ever had the experience of mango? You know, this is the part about fruits. For example, one of my favorite fruits is guava. I grew up in a place in India where we used to have a guava plantation inside our own house. We had so many trees. And I just grew up with it, and it has become, I just love it. We don't get guavas very often. These days I'm actually getting them from Mexico. So let's go back to the experience of mangoes. You don't really have, you can say I have heard about mangoes, but I have never eaten it. You cannot experience eating mango until you actually eat it, isn't it? Just knowing about it, this is knowledge and so on and so forth, really doesn't do anything. So also is, when it comes to Vedanta, people will say, you have heard about Atma, but have you ever experienced it? And oftentimes our students will say, I've been studying Vedanta, but it stays in the books and so on. I have never experienced what the book is saying, that you feel free and you feel fullness, and the word bliss is used often, ananda. So you don't have the experience of ananda. And so they say, this is just bookish knowledge, I don't have the experience. So this is the mindset that people have. And this is not a correct mindset. This is not the correct way to look at what is called anubhuti. So anubhuti here means the experience. It does mean experience. So what is the truth about this? These are things that you don't really understand until some Mahatma explains it very well. Because these are words that can be misinterpreted. So what Swami Maheswaranji has pointed out is, it's very revealing to me when I read that the whole passage, a lot of passages on. He said, it is not a question that you do not have the experience. Why not? Because life consists of nothing but experience. See this point very clearly. So experience is not something that is absent at times and present at other times. It isn't like that. So then how is it? You have some experience or the other all the time. So go back to the example of the mango. So you have no experience of the mango. That is true. We're still, we're not violating that. You don't have the experience of the taste of mango, but you have experience at any one time. So you have an experience of no mango. So right now you're sitting there, you're not eating anything, you have an experience of nothingness. But you have an experience. Because your entire life is nothing but in the terms of experience alone. So why are we doing all this? What's the significance of doing this? What Swami Maheshanji says is, just like you do not have the experience of mango, you do not have the experience of the fullness of the Atma. So this is something really to really understand. So let me kind of dwell on it for a minute, because I'm bringing in the teaching that I have received in from other texts also into this as well. So what it says is, you do not have you have an experience. So here's the thing. What I would say is, you have an experience. You're always having an experience. Life is, as I mentioned again. So right now, your experience is that of an incomplete Atma. But you don't have the experience of the fullness of the Atma. This is the thing. So there is a very famous way of understanding this. This is called Akhanda Akara Vritti. Akhanda Akara Vritti. So there are three words there. Akhanda. Akhanda means fullness. Khanda Rahitaha. There are no parts to it. It is a complete fullness. It's not as though... And so all these things are relevant to this one. So if you can just stay with me for a minute, I'll wrap it up in terms of this, what this verse is saying, from going from Savikalpakaha to Nirvikalpakaha. So Akhanda means one which is partless. Nirvikalpaha is akhanda. Okay? And you have the experience of akhanda in deep sleep. In deep sleep, you are akhanda. There is no parts to your experience. What are the parts of the experience? So you have three, this is what we call triputi. The three parts is knower, known, and knowing. So if you just analyze your life, you find that in waking and dream, these three things are always there. So triputi. Pata means three different leaves. So three different leaves are there. What are those three? Knower, known, and knowledge. Experience experiencer, experienced, and the experience. These are always there in all of our waking and dream sleep. But it disappears in deep sleep. There is no experiencer, experienced. That division is not there anymore. So this is what is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Okay? Alright. So now let us go further into Akhanda. This is the word Akhanda. Then Akhanda, Akara means a form. Akhanda, of course, has no form, because in deep sleep you have no form. You have no form, but it is a formless form in that way. So the word Akara is used in that sense, that something is there which is without parts. Now comes the call, is called Vritti. So this is what is called Vritti. So the moksha, the freedom, the understanding of the whole thing, the understanding of the experience of the fullness of the Atma. You see, the understanding of the fullness of the Atma is through a vritti. Vritti means the form of your mind. Form of your mind. So here is a very interesting example to be given. When you are eating a mango, the experience of the mango is not as important as the experience of the vritti of the mango. So get this point clearly. How? So Swami Maheshananji says that suppose you are given a mango to eat, and you actually put that into your mouth. Just then, as soon as you put it in your mouth, you got a terrible news about some accident of a loved one, let us say. Or you are completely distracted. So in that time, the mango taste will not be your experience, even though you are eating the mango. Why? Because the vritti is not there. Your mind has to be focused on the experience. Your experience is there, but the vritti is not there. This is an important thing to say. So what it means is, the result of all this explanation is this. Your experience of the fullness of the Atma, what is called Satyam Jnanam Anantam, Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnatvam. So that experience is always there, but the vritti has not come. So what does it mean the vritti has not come? That means that what is present is a false vritti. You fail to understand that you are already complete. Your vritti is that of the ignorance of the self's completeness. So that means that your vritti is of that of an incomplete I. So when we talk about the fact that room space, supposing the space has some consciousness, Chidakasha. Supposing the space has consciousness, so the room space also enjoys the same consciousness. So the room space will have a personality, but this personality would be a false personality, because it would say, I am a limited consciousness. Isn't it? That's how it will conclude. I am a limited consciousness. So the vritti of the room consciousness person will be that it is a vritti. It is a conclusion, it is an identification that I am an incomplete person. I am just a small room, a smelly room in a bathroom. I am just, so you also take on a lot of qualities associated with it. So this is what it calls, this is called savikalpa. Savikalpa means that vikalpa saha vartate. You bring in all the qualities of the room, we have nothing to do with it. So somebody says, no, you see, that has nothing to do with you. You are a pure space. And the person says, I don't get it. I don't care about your pure space or what. I am a smelly room and a limited room. And I don't have any light. I'm in very darkness. I'm not a happy person. Look at this other room. It is a nice living room, and it's much bigger, and it has light, and it's not smelly. That's the person I want to be. So the person says, no, you don't understand. There is no real difference between the living room and you as a bathroom. You are putting the I into a wrong place. So the vritti of the room space is savikalpaha. Savikalpaha means that whatever it is surrounded by, it takes on to itself and says, this is who I am. It's a wrong vritti. It's an erroneous vritti. So it's not as though this is the thing, it's not as though the room space doesn't have the experience of the space. Because the experience of the space is already there, always there. But the wrong vritti has to be replaced by the right vritti. How is that going to happen? Through somebody pointing it out and you're thinking about it over a long period of time. It is so caked in that the wrong vritti lasts for quite a while. So this is exactly what the anubhuti should be understood as. So in summary, what I'm saying is that one should avoid the casual thinking that I don't have any experience. The answer is always you have an experience, but you have the experience of the wrong thing. Your experience is already there, but you are mislabeling it. That's all. You see, that's what the situation is. So when somebody says that you have the experience, it's true that you don't have the experience of fullness. That's because your mind is not yet convinced of it. It will be convinced because that is the truth. So it says here, now we can go back to it. I just wanted to comment on this word anubhuti. It was very useful to me to really look at it that way. So swa anubhuti rasa aveshat. So rasa here means a kind of like a taste of yourself. Rasa means taste. So rasa means that just like you have a mango taste, the fullness of the Atma is a beautiful rasa. It's an ananda, which is just absolutely the unmatched, really speaking. And that vritti has to happen. How does the vritti happen? This is what is being explained in this verse. So, Swa Anubhuti Rasa Aveshat Drishya Shabda Anupekshituhu. Anupekshituhu means without regard to Shabda or Drishya, having no relevance to them. So just like a room space, who is a troubled room space, it's a bathroom space, and it says that I am just enclosed and it's smelly, because the smell of the bathroom is part and parcel of the recognition that this is who I am. So here he says that do not make it a part of that, because it has nothing to do with it. It may disappear tomorrow. It may be smelly just now, but if you open the windows, it becomes gone. But it really, you always remain as the space. Don't you see it? This is exactly what is meant. That really, Swa Anubhuti Rasa Aveshat Drishya or Shabda Anupekshituhu. Nothing to do with words or experiences or anything like this. This is what is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi Syat. So this is the overall meaning. Now let us go back to the word Avesha. Okay, so the Avesha means this. Let's look at the 4 different ways this word Avesha can be relevant. And Swami Viditatmananda has commented on all 4 of them. But before we do that, one key to moving from Savikalpa Samadhi to Nirvikalpa Samadhi is to grasp that the experiencer, the experienced, and the experience, the Triputi. Same thing with knower, known, and knowledge. Doer, to be done, action. All 3 of them are nothing but consciousness. Nothing but consciousness. Nothing but awareness alone. They are different forms of the awareness. So, even the experiencer is nothing but a form of awareness. When you see a solid object like this table, the solid, it's called a solid looking consciousness. And when you have some thoughts in your mind, it is a subtle form of consciousness. So there are nothing but different forms of consciousness. The whole creation is nothing but in the terms of consciousness alone. Asti bhati priyam, asti bhati priyam, satchidananda. So this is the starting point. We'll have much more to say about this later on, but in and through the explanation of how Avesha, how the Rasa Anubhuti is overwhelmed, how it becomes from Savikalpa to Nirvikalpa is due to Avesha. The starting point of this analysis is that please understand that you are only dealing with nothing but consciousness alone. And here the dream becomes a very good example. Because in the dream, you as the dreamer is nothing but your own consciousness. What you dream about is also consciousness. And the whole dream itself is nothing but consciousness. Isn't it? In fact, it's interesting that the so-called solid objects in the dream are nothing but a solidified form of consciousness. And thoughts in the dream are also nothing but a subtle form of consciousness. Nothing is nothing but consciousness. This is the play. This is our own experience. We know that. One moment you are dealing with the specifics of it. You know, you're chasing someone and you're trying to find something, this, that, or the other. Everything has some form and so on. The next thing is you are just gone. Everything is just poof, gone. Nothing but consciousness alone. You are the waker. This is exactly what will happen when you begin to understand how the consciousness alone is appearing as the experiencer, experienced, and so on. So this is the starting point. Now let's go to the avesha, the word avesha. So the first way of explaining avesha is that the unqualified consciousness, the fullness of the consciousness becomes manifest after doing savikalpa samadhi for a long time. So this is exactly the Patanjali yoga steps, all the 8 steps that you go through. And if you do that for a while, then what you find is that the manifestation of the fullness of the Atma becomes visible. And through the vritti. So this is where Vedanta and the yoga differ a little bit. So in the case of the yoga, there is no vritti whatsoever. It is nothing but pure samadhi. In the case of Vedanta, also there is absence of any duality, vritti, etc. Because a vritti is a form. It's a mental form, a form of the mind. So you cannot. So it is not proper to say that in nirvikalpa you have vritti, because no, nirvikalpa means there is absolutely nothing except for you, the Atma. But what Vedanta says is that in the yogic samadhi, the process of getting from savikalpa to nirvikalpa is long and takes a lot of practice, and also it does not last. It does not last. So you can be in a samadhi for an hour or two. It's possible. You can be in samadhi. Just like you can be in deep sleep for a long time. But the deep sleep doesn't last. What we are interested in doing is something to do with lasting. And so you can be in samadhi and you can be very happy with yourself. But then it becomes savikalpa again. And when it becomes savikalpa again, it's as though you are now lost the samadhi. So now you have an issue. Sometimes you are in samadhi, sometimes you are not in samadhi. So how are you going to to be in total samadhi? And I'm telling you all, this is not just theoretical thing. I just had a discussion with someone who is following a teacher here. He was asking me about Vedanta and this, that, or the other, and explaining what they do. So what they do is they just increase the length of the samadhi. keep on doing meditation, meditation, meditation. And then, I didn't want to insult him by saying, now you are not in meditation, how are you feeling? But it was very obvious to me that he's saying, I want to be in meditation all the time. And how are you going to do that? By increasing the length of it and just staying with it all the time. Unrealistic. Not possible. Because thoughts are going to come, and so on. So the difference in the Vedantic Nididhyasanam is vritti. Vritti means an experience, akhanda akara vritti. So vritti means that you develop the circumstances on which through viveka and vairagya you see the difference between atma and anatma. You can be free of thoughts, and then when thoughts occur, you analyze that they are fleeting, whereas you are not fleeting. So you keep on making that distinction. This is called the vritti. And the advantage of this is that even when you come out of the nirvikalpa, you don't lose the fact that you are not fleeting. You see, this is the thing. This is freedom. Where the mithyatvam of the anatma is clear to you, the reality of yourself is also clear to you, the distinction between them is also clear to you. That takes it takes a while. It's not suddenly you're going to get clear, because your mind is now so much involved with the non-understanding of what is real, what is unreal. It takes a while. But once you do, you're done. Then you can be, and in fact, this text is going to talk about it. Yatra yatra manoga jati tatra tatra samadhaya. Beautiful verse we're going to come to. That doesn't matter. This is called sahaja samadhi. That the real meditation is that it doesn't matter whether you are acting, thinking, talking. Gita says exactly the same thing. In verse, I think chapter 4, I'll look at it. Shrinvan, prashan, whatever you're doing, you're in samadhi. Why? Because you have already dismissed the thoughts as a reality. That is the vritti you have to develop. So anyway, so the first explanation of avesha is the manifestation. The manifestation of the vritti. When that vritti slowly comes, then it destroys the darkness, the ignorance of the Atma as a full being. So this is that experience. The experience is always there, but the experience was that of an incomplete Atma. It is exactly like asking a bathroom to just think about it. And at first the bathroom says, no, that doesn't make any sense to me. I just want to be, just remove all the walls and remove all the things. I want to be like a living room. Preferably I want to be like a lecture hall, like Carnegie Hall. That's what I want to be. And then the teacher says, no, you don't understand. The Carnegie Hall and you are exactly the same. And at first the bathroom says, what are you talking about? So the teacher says, don't you see that you are loading on to yourself unnecessary things that do not belong to you? Because your intrinsic nature is that of pure space. And both of them are exactly the same. So this takes a long time to think. At first the bathroom says, no, just get me out of here. I don't care what you say. All these highfalutin ideas, you keep it to yourself. I want to be Carnegie Hall. And this is exactly what human beings do. You say, forget about Vedanta and so on. I just want to be happy, successful, and so on and so forth. You guys keep your ideas to yourself. Go talk to someone else. I say, okay, fine. But you're the one who came to me. You wanted some help. And he says, no, this is not the type of help I want. Why not? Because it doesn't seem to work for me. See, the reason it doesn't work for you is that you do not yet have that understanding. Please think about it. Finally, it may dawn on the bathroom. My God, that is right. This is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Nirvikalpa Samadhi means that you distinguish the intrinsic from the incidental. You remove the incidental, but you keep the intrinsic. And the intrinsic is the real stuff. What has to happen? So this is what the word is. Beautiful word. He says, Swa anubhuti rasa aveshat drisya shabda anupekshituhu. No relevance to all the things of the incidental things. You just stay with the intrinsic. Then this is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And so how the Nirvikalpa Samadhi occurs, the process is given through the word Avesha. So we have seen the first of the four, that is manifestation. And Swami Viditatmananda has said the second option of using the word, of employing the word Avesha is called Abhinivesha. Abhinivesha means you get submerged in it. The first one was manifest. There's just small differences. It's not a major thing. But in looking at shades of difference, one is manifestation and the other one is submerging. It dissolves into it, into the experience of fullness. Really what we're talking about here is an experience of fullness as opposed to an experience of non-fullness. This experience will always be there, as we mentioned before. But experience of what? Experience of fullness means abhinivesha. Here Swami Viditatmananda has given a very beautiful example. He says, in this case, the called abhinivesha, it is like a salt doll, a lump of salt, which is put into the ocean. Put into the ocean. So if you take a lump of salt and you put that into the ocean, for a while it retains its gross nature as a lump. But then, if it stays there long enough, it starts to lose its opaqueness and becomes one with the water. And in fact, there is salt in the water itself. And the salt in the ocean water is not visible as a lump, but it is there. It is there. The ocean water is salty all over. It is subtle. It has a subtle presence. This is what happens in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That at this point you are just sitting there and saying, this is me. This is me. This is me means what? It means that your consciousness is grows. It's lumpy, lumpy consciousness. And then you tell someone, you're sitting in the sea of consciousness. Everything is nothing but consciousness. It's just not easy for you to say things like that. Just leave me alone. I want to be myself. Okay, fine. Just be yourself. Be your lumpy self. But then if you dissolve yourself into the consciousness. It's possible. You can try it. You can do it. Either through... So really there are... in Bhagavad Gita also, Lord Krishna says that there are two ways of doing it. Yoga and Sankhya. If, yoga yogena prapyate, sankhyena prapyate. He says you can do it both ways. The issue is through yoga it doesn't last. With Sankhya here means knowledge. It's not a separate branch or anything like that. Sankhya means the very knowledge of Vedanta. Or you can do it through Sankhya, in which case you become one with the whole universe. And you just do it. And so the lump of the salt becomes absorbed. And it is taught that, listen, even as a lump you are nothing but salt. And even as the water you are also nothing but salt. You are the very salt in that example. Whether it is amorphous or not, you are still salt. The problem with being lumpy is because it keeps your sense of limitation. Whereas in the other direction, you are free. You become the whole ocean. So that's the second one. Then the third one is called Avesha. It means Asamantat Pravesha. Pravesha means flooding. Asamantat Pravesha means, these are all methods of doing meditation, where you start with a sense that this is me. Then if you do it sincerely and long enough with loyalty and persistence, what you find is that the nirvikalpa experience, if you may, floods into you. In fact, this is also example is given in the Bhagavad Gita where, so there are different bodies of water separate from each other, like a well or a pond. They're all separate. But when a flood comes, the whole thing becomes nothing but water. The distinction between a well and a pond is lost. Nothing really changes. But now there is water everywhere. This is the third explanation of Avesha, which is Asamantat. Asamantat means totally. Pravesha. So this feeling of fullness becomes like a flood. And your mind's vritti changes from that of a khanda akara vritti to akhanda akara vritti. This is what happens. And the fourth explanation, Swamiji says, you can say that the Avesha is like something is taking hold of you. It's possessing you. Like a spirit enters me and I lose my independence. You see this example all the time. Somebody would commit a crime. This is a negative example, but somebody will commit a crime and say, I don't know what came over me. Something just took hold of me and made me do it. This is called, it's kind of like a spirit. So here it's a very positive spirit. That if you're sincere in doing Savikalpa Samadhi, knowing that your goal is Nirvikalpa Samadhi, then some kind of a spirit holds on. And so these are just shades of differences, whether it is manifestation or abhinivesha or asamantat pravesha or the spirit. But this is the transformation of a samadhi where you have some presence of yourself as a meditator, or it's the presence where you see the vritti of fullness. And the vritti of fullness is different from that of deep sleep, because in deep sleep also it is nirvikalpa, just like samadhi, but the vritti is not there. My goodness, I am the very fullness of it. That will happen in this samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi. So all these amount to the same thing, and so ultimately it is the submerging of the distinction that results in a non-changing rasa or joy. And also another thing to look at is that there is no effort required in nirvikalpa samadhi. So here's a very beautiful example of either riding a bike or swimming. Beautiful examples given in Vedanta. I think Swami Dayananji had given this example, Swami Chinmayananda also maybe. Both of them have said that, listen, when you are learning to ride a bike, there is effort involved. You're worried about falling off, and along with pedaling, you're also looking, I hope I don't fall to the left-hand side or the right-hand side. And you're all cognizant of it. It's worrisome. And you're also putting the effort in, because you cannot just stand there and not move. Otherwise, you'll definitely fall down. Very difficult to stay in a bicycle without movement. So you have to move. So it's an effort involved. But there comes a point where the effort drops off. And you are just riding without any effort. It just happens. If somebody says, my gosh, you're riding so fast, it must be a lot of effort. He says, I don't know. My legs are moving and I'm okay. This is an important thing. We will discuss it perhaps some other times. That really speaking, so this sense of kartritvam and bhoktritvam, that I am a doer and I'm an enjoyer. And so you have an effort. Oh, I've got to do this. Then I have a very little time. I need to take care of some things, and so on and so forth. And so the Vedanta says, wait, you don't have to do anything. Oh, why? It's very easy for you to say, I have to do something. I'm the one who has to do this. No, nothing needs to be done. You're okay the way you are. In fact, you are never doing anything. Atma never goes anywhere. It never gets involved in any action. This is what is called Naishkarmya Siddhi. You cannot do that. And it's a very, very funny situation, because it's exactly like we were discussing this in Purusha Suktam the other day, that you have this Hridaya Granthihi. Hridaya Granthihi means that this is the knot of the heart. The knot of the heart is very interesting, that the the things that are not conscious, which includes the body, even the mind, is not conscious. It's borrowed consciousness. So that is jada, it cannot move. And the Atma cannot move because it has no parts to move. But the combination of them creates this dreamlike situation. I am the doer, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and so on. So then what happens is exactly like riding a bike. So a Jivan Mukta's experience is things are happening. And in fact, I'm giving you some advanced ideas on this. They say in Adi Shankara had made this very beautiful, really was very revealing when I saw this. He says, what is it called? Prarabdhaya samarpitam mama vapuhu. Prarabdhaya samarpitam mama vapuhu. So Shankara says that through prarabdha, things are happening. My legs are moving. My mind is thinking. And I am not doing anything. I am akarta abhokta. It's very much, people say, how can you say that? How can you do that? It is very much like if there is a train moving and there is a lot happening, because there's the movement of the engine and it's pulling things. There's a lot happening. But suppose you switch it off. For a while, things are happening. The wheels are still moving. Steam is coming out from the top. All things are happening. But there is no one really. You allow the train to come to a stop by itself. So even though there is movement, no one is really perpetuating it. No one is keeping it forward. So similarly for a Jivan Mukta, what happens is that for a while, it appears that the body is functioning, the mind is functioning, relationships are still there, but the feeling is, I have nothing to do with it. Yes, my body is moving. My mind, you can even say, my association with this mind, but not me. The difference between mine and me. That meanness goes. And so, really the result of this, so this is the difference between yogic meditation and Vedantic meditation. In Vedantic meditation, once this becomes clear, then even when you are just living normally, you have a sense, let things happen. Let the Ishvara take care of it. This is his sankalpa, and I have a prarabdha which is keeping me going, but really speaking, I'm independent of it. It's a beautiful feeling, just absolutely amazing. And so that's what, that's the result of the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Same thing in swimming. Same thing in swimming, where you are first swimming because of effort. You are not sure whether you can float. After a while, you don't have to do anything. Your legs are moving, a little bit of some small movement, but there's no effort required. So there we can see that in this samadhi, then both the drishya and shabda, both the, as we saw in number 24, kamadhyaha chittagaha drishyaha tat sakshitvena kechetanam dhyaye drishya anuviddoyam. And then number 25, asangaha, satchidananda, etc. So these are both drishya and shabda are no longer needed. There they are needed because you are still putting the effort in. But in nirvikalpa samadhi, it is like you're already swimming. And there may be movement. So you see, this is an important thing because in the Vedantic vision of samadhi, the movement is not important. Let the words be there, let drishya be there, doesn't matter. But the fact that I am doing it, I am seeing things, that is gone. Whereas in the yogic samadhi, any type of an action, any type of a thought, you lose your samadhi. Big difference. Very big difference. This is what is called badhita anuvritti. Badhita anuvritti means that even though there are things happening, but you have nothing to do with it. It looks like a dream. This is the nirvikalpa samadhi that Vedanta talks about. Then there is a little bit of discussion here about the obstacles to samadhi. So we will go over that next time. We can go through some of the obstacles to samadhi. But that's on the side. This is pretty much, perhaps it would become irrelevant when we are looking at nivata sthita deepavat, the steadiness of the mind, steadiness of the samadhi. What are the obstacles to it? Why isn't it easy as it seems to be? So that I think we will talk about. And as part of that, we will discuss the obstacles to samadhi in the next class. Okay? Om asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityor ma amritam gamaya Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Okay. Let's see if you had any comments or questions. Good. First of all, happy to see Anita Vos-Henrich from Germany. She wrote to me recently and I was very pleasantly surprised to find she knows a little bit of Hindi. This is wonderful. She told me about her history, how she came to know. Very nice, Anita. Very nice to have you here. and all the other people as well. So Ashwin Nayak says, doesn't vritti means change? So yes, it does mean change. So the thoughts are always in the form of a change. If there is no change, there are no thoughts. So vritti could be just change for the sake of change. In other words, it means a change as a pure translation, or it means the mind, the state of the mind, which is also in the form of a change. So they are very close to each other, but they have different meanings from that. Very nice to see you all. And Shri, Laurel, Nancy Preston. I'm just taking out the Westerners in the class. I'm very happy to see that. And of course, many of you are attending both the classes. I don't know how you do that. It's just amazing. A long time, 3.5 hours. For me, it doesn't. Talking is easy, but listening, it takes a while. So, very appreciative of your doing it. Suvarna says, could it be attitude? Could what be attitude? Are you talking about vritti? No, not really. In any case of this is not attitude. Attitude only comes when you are doing karma yoga. So there the attitude becomes relevant because in karma versus karma yoga, the same action done with a different attitude makes a big difference. So karma yoga means that it's an action done for Ishvara. You don't do it for anyone yourself or for someone else, but you say, this is the way it should be done. This is my duty. So karma becomes, so the way you approach karma becomes an attitude. But in the realm of knowledge, of course, an attitude is important. You have the right attitude for learning. But it is purely the removal of ignorance. It's throwing light. It has nothing to do with attitude. So it's like a flashlight. Once you turn the flashlight on, all the unknown things in the room become gone. Now you say, this is where a sofa set is, this is a TV, this is that. Otherwise you can stumble. So the vidya is more like light rather than an attitude. I don't know if that's what you meant, but that's what that is. Barbara, very good. And Shri, excellent, thank you. All right. There's no more questions. I'll just wait for another second. Yeah, it's funny, many times when I look back at these classes, some questions are asked at the very end, which are not visible to me. Good. There's no more questions. Excellent. We'll see you next week. Om.